I don't think anybody should be doing business or entrepreneurship alone.
It's not always something you've done. No doesn't mean no, not ever, not anyone. It means not today, not now, not for me.
Women entrepreneurs telling me in my office or in my home working on my business, and I feel so alone. I can't even believe that is still happening.
How do I take my business to the next level? You just gave them the secret. That is the secret for whoever's listening. The secret is, welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Adrienne. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you. I'm so glad and honored to have you as a guest on our podcast. I have been so incredibly excited to have this interview with you for so many different reasons, and I've got a lot of amazing questions for you. So, for those of our audience who do not know who you are and what you do, can you just give us sort of a quick version of what you do and all the amazing work and support that you give others?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if I can summarize it in one sentence, it's really I help women business owners. So in multiple different ways. That's my one sentence of what I do.
I love that. And, you know, it's funny because you are one of many powerhouse women that I have the honor of meeting as well as interviewing. And I know, because I'm very much the same, where you're sort of in the background elevating all and empowering, educating and everything, all these incredible founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs and whatnot. And that's where you thrive. Has that always sort of been your comfort zone, if you will?
Oh, no. I mean, if I go way back, I, was a really shy person. I wouldn't have really gone out of my way to help others. So because I was, not confident, I was shy. So when I look back, it's really amazing. I find that I've come to this point in my career and just what I do. But the point I want to make to you, Adrienne, is that when you start helping people, it's like it's addictive. So you want to continue doing it, and you're just surrounded by so many amazing people, and you just want to continue being around them. You want to help them. You want to connect them so that they can help each other. So, I'm happy with the way it is now. And I look back and I'm like, I can't even recognize who I was early in my career.
I love that because, you and I chatted just before starting the podcast, and I know you, and most people do, have a little bit of reservation, and I still, before I go on stage or before I start a podcast, I still get, excuse me, let's call it a little bit of nerves and a little bit of, jitters and, well, what will I do? What will I say? And I think that's very common. I know you know a little bit about my background, but I've worked with greats like Mick Jagger, Bono, and they still get those same nerves. So I feel like it's sort of, not that this is a performance per se, but it is sort of a performance in a sense of you putting yourself out there. I did, for everybody that knows my podcast, I don't give any of the guests any questions. So you're coming in sort of blind and very much trusting me. And for that, I'm incredibly honored. Thank you. But, I chose you to be a guest on the podcast for a very, very specific reason. And that is to celebrate what you do for others. Because so many of the times I feel that it really does take a village, and it takes a lot of people to support, whether it is founders, businesses, entrepreneurs, and whatnot. And I know what you do. And we're not really, and that's what I was really clear on, that we're not really focused on the business side of it. It's focused on your work and your contributions. But it's incredible what you do. And I don't know, and I love the fact that you sort of said, well, it's a little bit of an addiction, which is so true because, you know, the greats say if you live in gratitude and if you serve others, that's where the secret happiness is, right? And so I know that you found that. But sort of to take it one step further, do you recognize knowing what your work does for others? Do you know how impactful it is to them and to their success?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think about it because I'm just like doing, and it's just like just part of what I do. But I think when people come back to me and say, hey, actually, I have a good example of that. I was talking to someone last week, and they said, there was something you said to me, Stephanie, 7 years ago. Do you remember we were like at this restaurant having lunch?
Wow.
And that was just, you don't realize like how impactful that was. And of course, I remember being at the lunch, but I don't remember exactly what it was that I said. But, you know, hearing that, that's when it comes back to you and you're like, I guess I did have an impact. So in retrospect, but I don't like sit around and think like, what have I done for others? It's more when, you know, when I get the feedback or somebody sends me a message on LinkedIn and says like, oh, you've helped me with this, or you've given me good advice, or I loved your post, it was helpful. Or, you know, in my job, if a woman business owner comes back, it could be years later and says to me, hey, remember that event that you helped organize? I, you know, developed, like I made a connection there with a buyer. I nurtured the relationship, and here I am like 4 years later, and I've got $1 million contract out of it. So that's when I think about it, like to answer your question, Adrian.
I love that. And
when,
you know what?
yeah.
The examples and the analogies are really what I love and what others love, because, you know, people always are on the chase of happiness. And to me, happiness are these moments. They're the small moments. And, you know, I love the one where you said 7 years ago, right? Because you're right. Sometimes you don't really know how you've affected somebody's life. But I can guarantee you, knowing the work that you do, I've read a lot of what you've put out there. It's so incredibly insightful, helpful. There's a wealth of knowledge in what you produce. And so I never want you to minimize that. And I really want to celebrate that. And, you know, you brought something up really important that sort of my mind stuck to a little bit, because, you know, part of what I do and my talks are about, you know, obtaining confidence and rock star confidence. And what rock star confidence really is, sort of in one sentence or less, is believing in yourself. And I can't tell you, it's not just you, it's not just me. There are women that are just rocking it and killing it in businesses, in boardrooms, in life. And when they actually come and either sit and talk to me, write an article, or they're one of my clients and they tell me, you know, I never had the confidence. I find that's where Rockstar Confidence and the whole, you know, branding was born, because I recognized that these women who you and I would think have an abundance of confidence don't. And so it's really simplistic in the way that I sort of cut it up and say, well, this is how you can obtain it. Super simple, really achievable. But do you feel that you have run into women where you're giving them confidence through your knowledge and expertise? I believe yes, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
I mean, I did allude to the fact that there was a time in my life where I didn't have like a lot of confidence, and I don't really know how I got from there to here, but it's probably just, you know, gaining the experience and, you know, just feeling comfortable with oneself. But yes, I talk to women business owners all the time, and some of them admit, like, I just don't have the confidence to either like go and bid on like a big contract, or put my name out there to be a speaker at an event, or even write a success story. And sometimes I have to get it out of them. Like, why is it that you don't want to do it? And they might say, I don't have time. This and
Those
that.
are excuses. They're not reasons. They're excuses.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like those that I really know personally, I'm like, oh, it's a lack of confidence, and you just have to put it out there, and it's not always going to be successful, but that's how it starts, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I love that. And, when we talk about confidence, that is at least a 10-part series with you and I, because, I go back to saying people think confidence is, like you said, like experience or knowledge or whatever. To me, it's just believing in yourself, and how you believe in yourself, super simple, is just being authentic. It always coming from a good place. And you brought up such a good point, which I love. Like the outside influences, this is just one of the healthy, non-negotiable boundaries that I have, which is I don't let the outside influences affect me. So if I put something out there that authentically, honestly, and with the right intentions that has been produced, and somebody doesn't like it, that's okay. I'm not for everybody, or the topic's not for everybody, and not everything's going to do great. And I feel that what holds people back is the confidence to say, no matter what happens, and not only, let's just say, as a business owner or an entrepreneur or founder, but also as a human being, if you put yourself out there, of course you risk failure, you risk you risk rejection, criticism and whatnot, but that's okay. Like I feel like we're so like scared and terrified, like it all is sort of fear-based.
Yes.
And so, when I hear, I don't have the time, I don't have the, I've got 4 kids and 8 businesses and I don't have time either. But you know what? You make the time for things that are important, right? And so I feel that if we can empower women just by even having these very authentic conversations, by saying it's okay to do something that comes from a really good place and an authentic place, put it out there. And I don't always mean on social media. Like you said, you can go and speak on a stage. Mm-hmm. You can present your idea to a few other founders or colleagues or teammates or whatever the case may be. Some people are just very uncomfortable with social, and that's okay. Yeah. And yes, when you put stuff out there, you are at risk for criticism and whatnot. But again, it's okay.
I mean, you're also at risk, if that's the right term, of like immense opportunities, right? Like you have to balance it out. And I think just generally we worry too much about like what other people think. So I think like put yourself out there, and if it ends up helping like just one person or 2 people, and you get that email like 7 years later, and somebody says to you like, that really impacted the trajectory of my career or my business, I mean, wasn't it all like worth it? That's how I look at it.
1,000%. And that's the whole point. And when I look back at even private investigation, I mean, people come to us, it's kind of like lawyers or doctors or dentists. People come to us when their lives are falling apart. They're at risk with their partners, taking their whole business, family law matters, infidelity, addiction, questionable behavior, child custody, missing children, elder abuse, whatever the case may be. And a lot of times people, once, we've served them, and this took me a long time, being in this for over 2 decades now, I felt it was a very negative business until, like to your point, I started getting the text messages or the cards or the emails, the communication saying, hey, you came to me at a very dark place in my life. However, happily backpacking, single across Europe. My kids are now grown. I've got, 4 kids. When I knew you, I had 2. Happily married, whatever the case is, have a new business, have a new business partner, rectify that, whatever it is that life gives us back. And it's not always going to give it back, right? Like you said, 7 years, you might have already maybe forgotten that incident, but yeah. I think it goes back to your belief system. And you and I had this instant connection when we met, because I just felt your vibe and your energy comes from such authenticity. And I think that is the key to confidence and everything else in your life, is that if you are a good person, if you're a kind person, if you're an authentic person, and what you do personally and professionally, it is serving and helping others, which obviously that's the path you and I have both chosen, then you can never be wrong and you can never go down a road that's not for you.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. That's a
Do you feel that way as well? Because I think too, depending on sort of what the situation is, and I don't know what that might be sort of in your business, but maybe if you think, well, I put, something out, I'm just going to say LinkedIn because that's sort of how you and I have been communicating. And, it only got this many views or this many, you kind of think, I wonder if that, wasn't the right choice or wasn't the right article, or was it, maybe it was just, I always look at, sort of rejection as redirection. Not that it's a rejection. Obviously you're doing Rockstar on LinkedIn, but, I almost look at it as a chance to learn, or just to at least be curious. It's not always something you've done. It could be timing. It could be a million other things. Do you look at it that way sometimes too?
I think a couple of years ago, like I started being more active on LinkedIn, I think during the pandemic, because what else was there to do, right? And at first it wasn't like resonating with, that many people, but over time it does. And certainly now I get more feedback, but there's still, like, I think there's something I posted maybe 4 weeks ago that got 1 like, but who cares? Like, I know that, I'm going to have another idea for posting something else, like advice or just like an experience I've had, and it will resonate with people. So I think because historically it has, I have the vision, I guess, to...
And confidence.
And confidence, yeah. See, even I have trouble with that. But I just know because I've done it before, I can do it again. So
100%. Yeah. And, I think with posting, it's a whole nother conversation and a whole nother animal. But I think, so much depends on whether it is successful. Depends what's going on in the news at that moment or that hour. It depends on economy, time of day, whatever the case is, right? And how LinkedIn serves it up. And so to me, I don't put a lot of value to that. But what I do put a lot of value to is the fact that you didn't say, oh my goodness, I think I failed. I must be doing something wrong. It wasn't a tragedy. It was simply, oh, okay, next. And that's really
exactly
what being a founder or an entrepreneur or somebody that is empowering people needs to have that quality.
Yeah, and stay on course, right? It's just because like one thing didn't work, whether it's LinkedIn or whether you go for coffee with someone and, have this like great idea, propose it, and they say no, like just keep going. There's more opportunities. There's maybe different opportunities to explore. So don't stop just because like one thing didn't work.
And the whole never give up is always been my motto. But also the fact what you are saying too is, reframe what that means. No doesn't mean no, not ever, not anyone. It means not today, not now, not for me. Rejection, to me is redirection, and it wasn't meant for you. And I think that people are so afraid to fail, especially women, and women that I speak to that, as I said, are uber successful or have been successful and lost it all or are rebuilding. And I'm talking about any age, any stage. And it all, I'm sorry, but I keep going back to confidence, but it all goes back to that confidence. And it's like, no, you are a rock star. You've done this before. You're good. You're going to just move forward. And it's not, you and I both know success is not, one paved straight highway to success. It's a dirt road, uphill, and it's a battle sometimes, and it's okay. Right. Yeah. And so that's why we need women like you that will be there to educate, inform, lift, support, right? And that's sort of how, the premise of I Am Unbreakable was all born, because we need that. Men have it. They'll go out on a golf course, and the biggest business deals were made, during golfing. So ours is made, and we connect in various ways, but we are, face-to-face, coffee, podcasts, phone calls, whatever. That sisterhood to me is so incredibly important.
Yeah, it's so different. I mean, when you said golf, it kind of triggered me, because I remember being left out of like the golf when, earlier in my career, because it was like the five guys are going to go golfing and I'm just going to stay at the office. So, yeah, it's just, it's different. And unfortunately, maybe that hasn't changed that much for women. But what's really good is that we've found like different ways, and we, we're a tight-knit community and help each other.
I think so too. And, like you said, it is about creating your community. And, I run in many different communities because I think it's so interesting. You meet so many incredible people. And again, sort of what makes the publication and the podcast different is, there's a lot of magazines or podcasts that will stick to, let's say, fashion only or food only or tech. For me, everybody is so interesting, right? And so, yes, it is based around women. I've got some awesome male contributors that also, because I think if men support and champion their women, I think we succeed if we're in relationships and traditional relationships. We succeed when our partners, regardless of gender, lift us, right? Mm-hmm. And so I do find that us creating communities is really a key foundation to our success.
Oh,
would you
yeah,
agree?
Absolutely. And I mean, I tell women all the time, like you have to go out there, and out there means like it could be like this, right? Online or actually like in real life, but you cannot be doing this alone. Oh my gosh. There's like so many resources and so many people that want to help. When I hear women entrepreneurs telling me, I'm just like in my office or in my home working on my business, and I feel so alone. I can't even believe that is still happening, because there's like so many opportunities and so many resources, especially in Canada. So I don't think anybody should be doing business or entrepreneurship alone. But at the same time, it's not going to happen if you don't like put yourself out there, right? So you have to go and you have to build your own community, your own network.
And that is key. And you said a few really important things, and I just want to recap that quickly. You said you have to put yourself out there. Like you said, it doesn't have to be on a podcast or, on a big stage initially. But you can even go on to, a summit and just be a participant and keep your camera off if that's like your thing, right? You can't, it's just the interaction, because you're right. Being an entrepreneur can feel very, very lonely. I know when I had started the private investigation agency, being the first female in North America. I didn't know at the time. I was very confused why I was getting so much pushback from my peers and from our competitors, and no mentors. Like, there was one person that came to the table, Tommy, to this day, love him. But nobody wanted me within their community. It was very much a boys' club. Like you said, it was the same as the golf. And I'm like, but wait, I bring so many different things to the table, and you've already got such a great foundation in the industry. But hold on a second, there's more, right? And now, as I've been in it, and now, as I said, it was years, and I tell this story all the time, I don't want to bore people, but it was years into it that I realized I was the first female in North America. That would have made sense to me in the beginning, but I was so confused, sort of trying to figure it out. But then my thing was, I put the blinders on, and that's when because I didn't always have that healthy boundary of not sort of focusing on the external. It was really internally, like what I was doing and what I was, serving and giving back to others. That was my focus. But that's when I set up that boundary for myself. And if I could, sort of put anything out there, that is key to somebody's mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being, is just to make sure that, you're in check and everything is good with you. And everything external, there's always going to be noise. There's always going to be somebody. There's always going to be something. But if you can just not listen to it and not sort of put that in the forefront of everything, that would be great. But just to go back for a moment, the evolution even 10 years ago, 20 years ago, is incredible and phenomenal that we have these amazing, amazing rock star networks that we can be a part of. Like, you can choose to be a part of.
Yeah, and there was something I was talking about with one of my acquaintances in one of my networks, and she was saying, when you're in like a tight network, like a strategic, and it has to be strategic, right? Because you can't just be joining like every network. I totally understand how business owners don't have time to do that. So I always advise, like, join the ones that match up with your objectives. But when you do, and they begin to know your business, then they go out and they champion you, right? So you've just like increased your business development efforts or your sales team in a way, because they will champion you. But you have to like invest that time in getting to know them as well, so you can do the same for you. So it's a one to many, right?
Yes, and I think what you said is really key, and that, for whoever is listening and is sort of at a crossroads, and how do I take my business to the next level? You just gave them the secret. That is the secret for whoever's listening. The secret is get people to get to know you, and because I can't say this enough. People are buying into founders. They're buying into CEOs. They're buying into people. They're not buying, your pretty branded website or your beautiful logo. They're not buying into that. They want to know who you are. And like you said, it's sort of a domino effect. And, obviously the magazine that you're contributing to, our next issue is all about creating relationships. Mm-hmm. So I think what you're saying too is put in your time, build the relationships, everything else will come. But one key mistake I find that, people will say, well, I went to like 3 networking events, and I hate the word networking, sorry. Not that I hate it, I just don't use it. But I went to 3 events and, nothing happened.
I knew what you were going to say.
Or 3 events in a month. Like, did you follow up? Did you go for coffee? Did you have a conversation? Did you wish them happy holidays? Did you, So creating a relationship is not showing up 1 to 3 times or 1 to 10 times. It is about engagement. That's where you get your impact. It's about giving to others and expecting nothing in return. And that is really the secret too. Everything else will come if you're able to put that out there. Because people, I find, are very smart. The people that you're interacting with, they're bright. And if they feel that there's something salesy about you, they know you're there. They know you're running a business. They know this is your livelihood. I think it's it's an unspoken thing. Do you
Yeah.
find that as well?
Yes, and every question you're asking me, I feel like I have like a recent example
Yes,
of
share.
having that conversation with someone, but um that one in particular, and it was about social media and building the brand. So a conversation I had yesterday, and the two guys, it was actually guys, business owners that I was talking to, but um, they were saying, well, we never got sales off of LinkedIn, so we're not doing it. I'm like, well, no, that's like I wasn't telling you to like update your profile and post because you were going to get sales from it, the way you would get sales from like paid ads. But it's like long term. You have to start investing, building your brand. People get to know you. You share insights and advice, and then eventually they will want to buy from you because they feel like they know you, they trust you. There's all of that, but it's investing like long term. You have to be ready to do this, and whether it's like networking in person as well, you have to be ready to do it like long term and not expect that you're going to get something out of it, the very first or even second or third time you go to these events.
Yeah, you know what? You're spot on. And you know, we invest so much time in our brand, creating a logo, creating colors, beautiful marketing packages. It's the same, right?
Exactly.
Creating a
Yeah.
relationship, if you look at any friendship per se, there's a process. There is a process, and it takes time and it takes effort. And I don't believe people with good intentions are ever like, you know what, I'm going to be this person's friend and I'm going to see if I can get this from them and that from them. It's kind of like, I want to give to this wonderful human being because I believe in them. And then it's reciprocated, and beautiful things grow after that. You and I could talk about this forever. This is for sure a part two because
Yeah.
it is so important for people to know to show up as often as you can, as opposed to, and I hate to say this, scrolling through social media for 2, 3 hours. Take 20 minutes, take an hour to show up even to a virtual event.
Mhm.
Get to know people, let people get to know you. So important. I have two quick questions before we go because I know our time is almost sadly up. I wanted to ask you, what does it mean to you to be unbreakable? So when you hear I am unbreakable or the word unbreakable, what comes to mind for you? And I
Um,
stump everybody on this, by the way,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's so like there's so many ways that you could sort of think about it. But what would it mean to you? So if you either said to yourself, an affirmation, I am unbreakable or unbreakable, I don't know, what does it mean for you?
Yeah, I think it goes back to something we talked about earlier on in the conversation, and it's knowing that, like, I'll use myself as an example, that I've gone through different things, that I've had some challenges and some successes, but I have survived them and even like done well. So it's looking back and knowing that none of those things have broken me, right?
Hmm.
So therefore, I have what it takes to like keep moving forward. So whatever comes, I feel I can take it on because I have done it in the past. Not the same, like I don't know what's coming, but I have that track record of like myself being able to deal with challenges.
That's
So yeah,
perfect. I
that's how I
love
would
that.
see
And
it.
it goes back to confidence too. I feel that you have the confidence to know you've got the tools in your toolbox that when life goes sideways, and it does, that is life. If people think that they're going to sail through, whether it's personally or professionally, and not be, hit an obstacle, a roadblock, a struggle, then that's not reality. You are going to sort of come across those things, hills and valleys, and that sometimes there'll be, bigger drops and sometimes there'll be bigger hills. But I think what I'm hearing you say too is that I've done it. I believe in myself. I know that I'm going to get through it regardless of the obstacle because I've done it before. So that is a beautiful way to show your confidence.
It's also, if I may add, it's also
Yes.
being like solutions focused, right? So I know that whatever comes my way, I'm going to try to find solutions to it. I'm not just going to sit there and accept it. So I am a solutions-based person, and that's how I go out in the world, and that gives me the confidence to face whatever's coming.
That's amazing. And I'm the same. When people will tell me, and just exactly what you had spoken about earlier, when they say, "Oh, well, I can't do it because I don't have time or I don't have whatever," and I'm like, for every problem, I've got 20 solutions. They're like, how do you have that? I'm like, what's the problem first? And then they'll tell you. And you're like, okay, well, maybe put your kids to bed 15 minutes earlier or wake up 30 minutes early. Like, do you know what I'm saying? I feel like there's always a solution. So the fact
Yeah.
that you say that, you have said so many incredible, insightful things. And thank you so much for joining us. But saying that there's always a solution is such a great motto and such a great way to live, because you're basically telling yourself, I got your back.
Yeah, I want to go through life knowing that there's no problem out there that I'm not going to have solutions to. Like, they may not be the right solution, or I may not think of them right away. But I have to believe that there is a solution and an alternative, or that there's someone I know in my network that can help me. So it goes back to the importance of building your networks.
And surrounding yourself with like-minded people. In
Exactly.
saying that, thank you so much for joining us today. I loved having you. I hope you're going to return as a guest. I have so many additional questions for you. We're going to go to part 2. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Stephanie.
thanks for having me. It's been like a pleasure to have this conversation. And yes, I'm totally on board with coming back. I have lots of other things to share.
I
Thanks,
love it.
Adrian.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.